Well, good afternoon and welcome for coming to join us this afternoon. I'm William Wells, Superintendent of Schools for Amherst County Public Schools. I'm joined today with Mr. Brad Beam, Director of Amherst County Public Safety, and Lieutenant Dallas Hill, Public Information Officer for the Amherst County Sheriff's Office. The order of speakers will be myself, Mr. Beam, and Lieutenant Hill. We will make statements regarding our roles in this incident and then take questions at the conclusion of the event. Although we want to answer your questions, there is some information that we cannot be shared due to HIPAA and FERPA regulations, as well as this is an ongoing investigation through the Sheriff's Office. We want also to remind everyone this is a press conference, not a community forum. We will answer questions from the press, but not from the community at this point. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and then thank everyone who assisted in the initial response to Central Elementary School yesterday. I especially want to recognize Ms. Erica Maddox, the school health assistant who initially identified the symptoms and notified school administration. I also want to recognize Mr. Ron Profit, principal at Central Elementary School, Ms. Angela Penn, the assistant principal at the elementary school, school resource officer Brandon Payne, who was the first law enforcement officer to arrive, Ms. Blair Payne, lead nurse for Amherst County Public Schools, who responded, Dr. Tim Houghton, chief operations officer for Amherst County Public Schools, and Brad Beam, director of public safety, for their response to this incident. We'll start with saying our schools are safe and our students are safe. I think that's the main thing to say right now. The students involved in this incident, they returned home last night, but the bigger picture, our schools are safe and our students are safe. And Amherst County Public Schools is a safe environment for our students. I want to go through the timeline of events a little bit and kind of the background of what happened, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Beam and Lieutenant Hill for their comments. But on Tuesday, December 12th, at Central Elementary School, a student brought a sandwich bag containing gummies to school and then shared those gummies with 6 classmates during lunch. Of those seven students, 5 demonstrated symptoms and received medical attention. Students who ingested the gummies exhibited symptoms of nausea, vomiting, headache, and some muscle spasms. 2 of the students were transported by Amherst County Public Safety, and 3 of the students were transported by their parents to the local hospitals. We offered assistance to the other 2 remaining students and their parents, but their parents opted not to seek treatment. They were not exhibiting any symptoms. Law enforcement tested the gummies, and they tested negative for foreign substance. However, when they tested the residue in the bag, the field test indicated a positive response for fentanyl. At this point, we believe the bag containing the fentanyl got contaminated either at home or en route to school as the student was being transported by their caregiver to school. There's no indication there's any other fentanyl at the school, but this came from the home. The fentanyl was contained to the bag, and we did not have any indication the fentanyl was on additional surfaces in the building, but we did go ahead and clean the building this morning just to make sure everything was clean. Thought we'd best review the timeline of events from the school perspective. So at 1:20, the first student started indicating symptoms. At 1:40, the nurse notified the school administration. Between 1:40 and 2:15, parents of the affected students would be notified by school staff. Also during that same time frame, between 1:40 and 2:15, the other students that were affected began having symptoms and came down to the nurse so they could seek attention from the nurse. At 1:47, the initial call went to Officer Payne, who reported to the scene. Around 2 o'clock, Officer Payne then notified dispatch of the need for medical personnel on scene around 2:22. At 2:15, the school administration office notified of the illness, and we sent resources to support the school. At 3 o'clock, we sent a school messenger to the parents of Central Elementary School, and at 3:50, we sent a school messenger to the parents of all schools in the division. At approximately 4:45, we were notified by Officer Payne that the bag did test positive for fentanyl, and at that point, we notified the parents of those 7 students and made sure they were aware. We also notified law enforcement and medical folks at public safety notified the hospitals that the tests were positive, test positive for fentanyl. After we notified the parents, Amherst County Sheriff's Office had notified us they were getting ready to continue their investigation and go to the residence of a presumed person who may have had it, and so we did not put any other press release out until 6:30 until the Sheriff's Office had a chance to do their investigation at the residence, so we did not interfere with their investigation. So that's kind of the timeline for us here at the school system. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Beam to discuss the role of public safety in this incident. Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Dr. Willis. Again, my name is Brad Beam. I'm the Public Safety Director here for Amherst County. As Dr. Willis alluded to, School Resource Officer Payne was the first public safety person, either from law enforcement or our office, to respond. He responded. After his assessment of the situation and consultation with school nurse, they contacted us to respond with ambulances and medical response. We responded at approximately 14:24, 2:24. We responded. We were on scene within 6 minutes. Initial response was a on-duty supervisor and an ambulance. Within about 10 additional minutes, we had 3 other ambulances, as well as 2 additional supervisors and our logistics coordinator. We responded with a total of 11 personnel to this incident. We did transport 2 individuals to Lynchburg General Hospital. Generally speaking, all of the students had some of the different symptoms: nausea, vomiting. Several of them exhibited signs of being lethargic, things of that nature. 3 of the students did get transported to local hospitals by parents. 2 went to Lynchburg General by car, and 1 went to Bedford ER by car. Again, we continue to assist the Sheriff's Department and the school systems in the investigation. One of our EMS supervisors contacted Poison Control to try and identify if the gummies could potentially be the source or if it was an unknown source. Through consultation with Poison Control, they had no indication that the type of gummy bears that were in question had any type of recall or anything that we should be concerned with that, which led to the Sheriff's Department continuing their investigation to the containers in which the gummies were brought into. Again, we continue to work with the Sheriff's Department and the school system on this matter, and I'll bring up Lieutenant Dallas Hill next for his comments.
Good afternoon. Thank each and every one of y'all for being able to come out today. Again, I'm Lieutenant Dallas Hill with the Amherst County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Public Information Officer, as well as the Lieutenant over the School Resource Officers, which are one of my officers was the one that responded to that scene. I'm not going to reiterate everything that they did and they said. They gave you the timeline. But again, on December 12th, my School Resource Officer was alerted that 7 school-aged individuals were needed medical treatment. Again, 2 of them needed to be transported to Lynchburg General Hospital. Parents transported 2 to Lynchburg General Hospital, and 1 transported 1 to Bedford Memorial Hospital. During the course of the preliminary investigation here, it was found that each of the students ingested some gummies. During that investigation, we eventually learned that there was residue in the baggie which contained the gummies. We field tested that twice, and that was tested positive for fentanyl. With the assistance of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the baggie will be sent to DEA lab for further testing and confirmation. Due to the findings of that preliminary investigation, my law enforcement officers under the SRO program, the Investigations Department, Narcotics Investigations, they executed a search warrant at 143 Pendleton Drive here in Amherst County. When they did that, they took 2 subjects into custody that were at that residence. The first one is a Clifford Dugan. He was charged for convicted felon in possession of a firearm and also contributed to the delinquency of a minor. The second one was a Nicole Sanders. She was charged with possession of Schedule 1 or 2 and also charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Dugan is being held right now at the Adult Detention Center with no bond, and Sanders is being held with a $1,000 bond and a $1,500 bond. This is an ongoing investigation, so there are possibly more charges that could result in this. There are numerous individuals working on this case. We are taking this case very seriously. These are our children that go to school, and we want to make sure that we do our due efforts to be able to bring those to justice who need to come to justice. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, you can contact my office. You can contact me through email at dahill@amherstsheriff.org, or you can contact Captain Clay Thompson at 434-946-9373. We are currently working to try to fit all these puzzle pieces together. And we have a lot of individuals right now working on this to make sure that we can get everything that we need to get done. Thank you.
So at this point, if the press has any questions, we'll be glad to take those at this time.
I would like to know, what's the relationship between the people that were arrested and the kid that brought the gummies to school?
As of right now, we cannot disclose that information. It's still an ongoing investigation. There's a lot of people we still need to contact, and we have to go through our steps to figure out what we need to tell you.
Were any of the students administered Narcan or needed any kind of treatment along those lines?
No students were administered Narcan. None of the students exhibited signs that would indicate they needed Narcan. When we give Narcan, it's typically for someone who is having trouble breathing. They're not breathing well or very fast, and they're having trouble maintaining their own airway. We were very lucky in this situation that none of the students exhibited that type of sign.
And how are those children doing now?
So in conversations with the parents, they were all released last night, and all the parents indicate they're doing well today. Some were tired. Some wanted to come to school today, and they tried to get back in, but a couple wanted to stay home. But the parents indicated that students were healthy and released from the hospital last night and feeling well today.
Are you able to tell us how old or what grade the students were?
The students were fourth grade.
All of them?
All students were in the same class in fourth grade.
Do you know if any other students may have come into contact with the baggie during that 3-hour span before it was determined that it was laced with
We have not been able to determine anyone else was in contact with that baggie. We do know that another baggie with gummies was brought to school. That was also tested with a sibling of one of the students, but that was tested negative. So just this one particular bag was one in question.
Did the gummy bears contain any other drugs?
No. The gummies were not the issue here. It was the residue on the bag that caused the issue. The gummies themselves were not. They were tested, and there's been no indication there. You can speak to that.
If I could add something about the gummies and the bags, what we do is we send those off to be tested further. So our initial field test kits may not pick up what we need to find that are in the gummies, if there's anything at all in those gummies. So that will be sent off to the lab to determine that factor.
Do you think this was an unintentional or intentional as far as the baggie being brought to school, whether it was from the two who were charged or the child?
From the school system, we think it's unintentional. The child who brought them actually consumed some of the gummies and had no idea anything was there. So we don't feel this was an intentional event, but we are continuing our investigation. Again, working with Sheriff's Office and Public Safety on this, but at this point, we do not believe anything was intentional.
We knew this was a fluid situation, but could you talk a little bit to some of the parents who were concerned about the quickness, if you will, of notifying the parents of this situation?
So as soon as we realized there was an issue going on, so we got our first notification around 1:20. A student came sick to the office. About 3 o'clock, we had a school messenger going out to parents of Central Elementary School. So by the time we were on scene, realized that there was an issue and students had to be transported off, we started notifying parents immediately. The parents of those 7 students were notified immediately. As soon as they came to the office, they were called. Said there was illness, but we notified the rest of the school of Central by 3 p.m. And by 3:50 p.m., we had a school messenger going out to the whole school division, notifying them of the incident. At that point, it was still under investigation, and we did not realize it was fentanyl involved. Once we received the notification from the Sheriff's Office that fentanyl was detected, then we notified those 7 parents again that fentanyl was involved, and then at 6:30, we sent another school-wide message to all parents in the division and all staff stating that fentanyl was detected at the school. So really from the time it started, around 1:20 to 3 o'clock to 3:50, we had information out to all parents, and then as information came to us to be updated, we pushed that out as soon as we could. Again, we did have, at the request of the Sheriff's Office, we did hold the notification until 6:30 as they were doing a search warrant on the residents, and we did not want our information to hinder their investigation.
Within the school, what do the rules look like for sharing food? Is this something that should have been monitored during lunchtime?
So, we ask that parents don't bring in their bags of food and students share. However, at lunch, it's very difficult if you have 300 kids at lunch to tell a student they can't get, that's hard to monitor. So we're going to really be pushing to our parents and to our students, you know, make sure it's safe. If you want to bring food to school, it needs to be in an original container from a store. Like if there's a birthday party and they want to bring cupcakes, it has to be store-bought in an original container. And so we are working with our students and notifying students and, you know, really working with them to say, you know, don't share food, don't take food from others. You just don't know. And luckily everybody's safe. We were very lucky that the trace amounts were so small that no one was seriously hurt with this or worse. So we are very lucky there, but I think it does remind us that we need to work with our parents, remind our parents and our students that there is, you know, that these things do occur, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to be safe. I will say that this is, you know, as we've gone through time, this is not a school issue. This is a community issue. Okay? We have these things in our community. The fentanyl didn't just show up at school. The fentanyl came from somebody's house, right? And so we need to wake up as a county and as a community to realize that these things are real, these things are happening. It's not a Richmond problem, it's not a Washington, D.C. problem, it's an Amherst County problem. And until we do that and really start taking ownership in our own kids and what they are doing, this will continue. It might not happen in Amherst County, but it's going to happen somewhere else. Last week it happened at Bedford with the gummies at Liberty High School. This is a problem we're facing in our state. And if we don't start doing something about it now and start addressing that problem, it's going to continue. So I ask our parents to take charge, wake up, realize this is happening because it's here and it's real.
What's the message when it comes to consequences? I know you're sending this message to parents, but what are the consequences that you want these parents to know they can face if this happens again?
Well, for parents, if it's unintentional, the student didn't realize it, that's a law enforcement consequence, and I'll let the sheriff's office speak to that. For students, if it's intentional, if we deem it's intentional, then they face the possibility of school repercussions as well as law enforcement repercussions, as well as the other consequences, you may die, right? I don't think there's a day in the week I don't get a call in to have somebody some type of overdose or drug reaction in the county. So that is happening. And so the legal sides of it and the school repercussions, yeah, those happen. But the bigger issue is what are the health consequences of this for our students and for our community? No one wants to have a 10-year-old kid at school die at school because somebody laced something with a drug or brought a drug to school. We don't, you know, that's the worst thing that happened to us as well as the family. Think of the families on these things, and these happen. So we need to do what we have to do to make sure this doesn't happen. But from a school standpoint, there's discipline consequences if it's intentional. It's a 10-day suspension and the school board determines placement after that. From a law enforcement standpoint, that's up to law enforcement and to the Common Attorney's Office as to what happens there.
From a law enforcement aspect, this type of behavior is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable for this county, it's unacceptable for our families, and we will work diligently day and night to be able to bring to justice those who commit this act. We are trying to, and we need y'all's help. We need the community's help. We need the parents' help to be able to enforce these laws and to do the best that we can out there. So rest assured, this sheriff's office, as well as all the others around the state and country, are working nonstop, tirelessly, day and night to make sure that we bring to justice those who have committed some sort of crime like this.
I know the original report stated that there was possibility that this might have been an allergic reaction before the test came back. Is testing for fentanyl a routine step, or was something about this circumstance something that kind of pushed y'all to look for that?
Through the investigation and the preliminary investigation, we have to try to rule out every possibility. So through the investigations, it could have been possibly something medical. It could have been something in the food. We tested further and found that found actually what it was. So through trial and error, like I said, we are giving our due diligence to make sure that we find the answers so we can give the answers to each and every one of you. So that way we can have some sort of comfort that we know what it is and why they had the symptoms.
Do you know how much fentanyl was in the bag?
No, ma'am, I do not.
I think you may have touched on this earlier, but the child who brought the gummies, are they safe, assuming that they were in the same household as the people who were arrested? Are they
Yes. Each one of them are with the appropriate supervision that they need right now. Yes, ma'am.
I know you've touched on this before, but fentanyl is an extremely powerful drug, extremely deadly. These are 7 children, they're small framed. Can you just talk about how lucky these children are? I mean, this could have been a lot worse.
You want to answer that?
Sure. We see overdose by opioids all the time. As my law enforcement partners and school system have talked about, it's not just in this community, it's across the country. And we continue to battle this epidemic. You mentioned Narcan earlier. That is a tool that every law enforcement officer carries, our school systems have. Our fire and EMS folks carry several doses of that because we do know how dangerous fentanyl or other products that have opioids in it can be. And it can be deadly in just a moment with a very small dose of those medications or those drugs.
Could you speak a little more about what you kind of mentioned earlier, that, you know, the community, families need to take the responsibility, step up if you
Right.
will. Could you break that down just a little bit? For the parent who
Right.
says, hey, I'm working 2 or
Yeah.
3 jobs, I'm consuming
Right.
already.
So the drug issues in our community are not something that the school system can suspend its way out of. It's not something law enforcement can arrest its way out of. Right, we're here, it's here. No matter how many people they could arrest, but you're still gonna be there. So what we need parents to do is actually start thinking about this, looking at social media things on their kid's phone. Actually, looking at what their kids are bringing to school every day. We had a 13-year-old who got in here for discipline issue earlier this year with having a THC vape at school. We asked him, how'd you get it? He says, easy, I just went online, said I was 21 and shipped it to my house. So the regulation of these THC drugs and things like that is really not there. And so students can get it, but our parents, he said, the parents had no clue. They had it shipped in a box. So we need, as parents, again, I'm saying our parents, we just need to be, we want to trust our kids, we want to believe our kids, they won't do wrong. I had my 3, I want to trust them too. And, that happens, right? We were all kids at one time. We're going to push the envelope sometimes. But we need to just make sure we're doing our due diligence as parents and just checking up on our kids and making sure that they're doing what they need to be doing, because this is a dangerous situation. It could be a deadly situation. And we just want to make sure that we do everything within our power to keep this from happening so we don't have to have a situation like this again or even a worse press conference in the future. And I just ask our parents to do what they need to do to make sure this doesn't happen to their child, because the last thing they want to do is us having to call them at 2:30 in the afternoon and say your child has overdosed on fentanyl and we can't bring them back.
Quite a traumatic experience. How
Yes, sir.
are you and your administration holding up? How are the teachers doing?
The teachers seem to be doing well. The teacher in the class that these students were in, she was a little shaken yesterday. She was better this morning. I think the school staff is doing well. My office here, we're dealing with it. We're doing the best we can. We're ready for Friday at 4 o'clock to get here. And when Christmas break starts, but we're here and we're maintaining and we're doing what we need to do to make sure our kids are safe. But thank you for asking.
Any other steps or protocols that will be enacted now to ensure that this doesn't happen again to the extent that you can?
So we met with all principals this morning on a Google Meet this morning, principals and leadership across the division. We just reminded them to really emphasize with their students and their parents what they bring to school and make sure their parents are checking it, make sure students are aware that anything that you think is safe might not be, and just really be vigilant about that. We've asked our elementary, especially at lunches, just to be aware and just remind students not to share food at lunch. It's difficult with kindergarten and first grader. You don't anticipate they're not bringing things to school on purpose, but you never know what they have in their bags and what they get in contact with at home. So, we're just reminding our staff to do that and really speaking with our students about that. And then as the older students, we're again reminding them of the dangers of what you order online you may think is safe, but it might not be, and you never know the impurities in some of these things we're buying or there, and it could have a fairly dangerous side effect on you if you ingest it. So just really be careful of what you're doing and be aware of what you're doing.
I have a question. I know you said not community.
I'll talk to you after. That's okay.
According to the Supreme Court case of Lovell versus the city of Griffin, I am the press, so I have a question.
What's your question, ma'am?
Okay, what is your plan to make sure there's no fentanyl left in the school?
In that particular school, we have treated the school, we have cleaned the school, we have wiped the school.
Who cleaned the school?
Custodians and
I'm not
maintenance.
teaching now,
No, ma'am.
so you can guarantee that every
I
one of the 7 children
Hold on.
that touch that baggie and everything they touch, every surface is clean.
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee you'll get struck by lightning right now. The likelihood is low, very low, but I can't guarantee anything. So, from a school,
Putting it back on the.
wait a minute, man, let me,
When you haven't even cleaned your school.
we have cleaned the school.
My kids can go back to school.
We have cleaned the school.
You haven't.
Yes, we have.
You have not had a hazmat team out there.
You want to address hazmat in this situation?
Yeah, this really wouldn't be what we would consider a hazmat situation. You know, these things, a product, depending on what it can be cleaned with or disposed of with. And as the superintendent said, I think they've taken the appropriate steps with their custodial staff, making sure they're wearing proper equipment and so forth to get that done. So we feel very confident from a public safety standpoint,
Okay.
those things have been
From a
done.
public safety standpoint, how much fentanyl does it take for a kid to have on their skin to kill them?
Again, I don't want to get into debate here. I'm just trying to answer a few questions, but there are different
I just want the building clean so my kids can go back to school.
there are different absorption ways for things to occur with fentanyl. Typically, we talk about being absorbed through the skin. A lot of times, that's when we're talking like fentanyl patches, things that are packaged and made to have a dermal exposure route.
Okay. That concludes our press conference. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all. That's it. Thank you. You can talk to me.
Are the charges going forward in J&D court or general district court?
I don't have that information I'm sorry. I don't have that information as of right now on which court is what the charges are in.
Will a news release on the rest be sent out?
Yes, we're going to send out a press release here shortly.
Was law enforcement aware of the two individuals prior to this incident? In relation to any other drug charges, any other investigations?
That information I do not have right now, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all.